There is a painful truth about old age that most people never realize until it is too late. Many people spend their entire lives believing that their family, their money, their home, and everything they have built will always be there for them. They work hard, make sacrifices, and dedicate decades of their lives to providing for others. They assume that when they grow old, these same things will become their greatest source of comfort and security. But life does not always unfold the way we expect. As the years pass, children grow up and become busy with their own responsibilities. Friends slowly disappear from our lives. The body becomes weaker. The things that once seemed permanent begin to change. And one day, many people find themselves asking a question they never thought they would have to ask. What truly belongs to me? What is the one thing that cannot be taken away by time, distance, illness, or even death itself? Buddhist wisdom has explored this question for thousands of years, and the answer may surprise you. According to the Buddha, when life reaches its final chapter, almost everything people spend their lives chasing must eventually be left behind. Yet there are 3 treasures that remain with you until your very last breath. Most people spend their entire lives searching for happiness in the wrong places because they never discover these 3 treasures. But those who understand them often face old age with greater peace, greater courage, and far less regret. Today, we will uncover the 3 things that truly belong to you when you grow old, not your family, not your possessions, and not your status. And if you stay until the end, you may begin to see your life in a completely different way. Before we begin, tell us in the comments, how old are you, and from which country are you watching this video? Now, let's begin. Lesson 1. The 3 things you will carry until your final breath. Most people spend their entire lives believing that the things around them belong to them. They work hard to earn money, buy a home, collect possessions, build a reputation, and create a life that feels secure. As the years pass, they become deeply attached to these things. They begin to think that their wealth defines them, that their possessions protect them, and that the people around them will always remain by their side. But Buddhist wisdom invites us to look deeper. It asks us to pause and consider a simple question. What will still be yours when everything else begins to fade away? When we are young, this question rarely enters our minds. Youth creates the illusion that there will always be more time. There will always be another opportunity to earn more, achieve more, and hold on to what we have. Yet life moves much faster than most people expect. The years pass quietly. Seasons come and go. Children grow up. Friends move away. Circumstances change. And before we know it, we find ourselves standing in a very different chapter of life. At that stage, many people begin to notice something they never fully understood before. The things they spent decades chasing do not provide the lasting comfort they once imagined. Money may make life easier, but it cannot remove every fear. Possessions may fill a house, but they cannot fill an empty heart. Status may earn respect from others, but it cannot guarantee inner peace. Even the strongest body eventually becomes weaker with age. The world constantly changes, and everything we cling to eventually changes with it. This realization can feel frightening at first, but Buddhism teaches that it is actually the beginning of wisdom. The moment we stop expecting permanent happiness from temporary things, we begin to see life more clearly. We start to understand that true security cannot be found outside ourselves. It must be cultivated within. According to Buddhist teachings, there are 3 things that remain with us throughout our journey. These 3 treasures are not visible, and they cannot be measured by the standards of the world. Yet they are more valuable than anything money can buy. The first is our actions. Every choice we make leaves a mark on our life. Every act of kindness, every moment of patience, every decision made with compassion becomes part of who we are. In the same way, every act of selfishness, anger, or dishonesty also leaves its imprint. Long after people forget what we owned or how successful we appeared, the effects of our actions continue to shape our experience. This is why Buddhist wisdom places such importance on living with awareness and integrity. Our actions become a silent companion that follows us wherever we go. The second treasure is the condition of our mind. Many people spend years taking care of their careers, their homes, and their appearance, while neglecting the state of their inner world. Yet when life becomes difficult, it is not wealth that determines our peace. It is the quality of our mind. A calm and disciplined mind can remain steady even during hardship. A restless and troubled mind can suffer even in the middle of comfort and abundance. As we grow older, the importance of this truth becomes impossible to ignore. The mind we have trained over the years becomes the place in which we live every single day. The third treasure is wisdom. Wisdom is not simply knowledge. It is the deep understanding that comes from observing life honestly. It is the ability to accept change without bitterness. It is the ability to let go without resentment. It is the ability to appreciate what we have while understanding that nothing lasts forever. Wisdom allows a person to face old age with dignity instead of fear. It transforms challenges into lessons and losses into opportunities for growth. The tragedy is that many people discover these truths only after spending decades chasing things that could never provide lasting fulfillment. They devote their lives to accumulating what can be lost, while neglecting what can never be taken away. Then, as they grow older, they begin to realize that the greatest treasures were never outside them. They were being built quietly within them all along. This is why Buddhist wisdom encourages us to reflect on our lives before it is too late. Every day offers a new opportunity to strengthen these three treasures. Every moment gives us a chance to choose better actions, cultivate a healthier mind, and deepen our understanding of life. The sooner we begin this work, the richer our later years become. When the final chapter of life eventually arrives, the size of our bank account will not determine our peace. The number of possessions we owned will not determine our happiness. The praise we received from others will not determine our sense of fulfillment. What will matter is how we lived, how we treated others, what kind of mind we developed, and what wisdom we gained along the way. These are the three things that remain when everything else begins to disappear. These are the treasures that stay with us until our final breath. And understanding this truth may be one of the most important lessons a person can learn, while there is still time to act upon it. Lesson 2. Buddha's secret for a fearless old age. One of the greatest fears hidden inside the human heart is the fear of growing old. Most people do not speak about it openly, but it quietly follows them throughout life. When they are young, they fear losing their youth. When they reach middle age, they fear losing their strength. As the years continue to pass, they fear losing their health, their independence, their importance, and eventually their time itself. This fear can become a heavy burden that steals joy from the very years that should be lived with. The deepest wisdom and gratitude. Buddhist wisdom teaches that the suffering of old age does not come primarily from aging itself. It comes from resisting what cannot be stopped. Many people spend their lives fighting against change. They want everything to remain exactly as it is. They want their bodies to stay young, their loved ones to stay close, their circumstances to remain stable, and their future to unfold according to their plans. But life has never worked this way. Change is not a mistake in the design of existence. Change is the design itself. The Buddha observed that everything in the world is constantly changing. The seasons change, the weather changes, relationships change, thoughts change, emotions change, success changes, failure changes. Even the mountains that appear permanent are slowly transformed by time. If everything around us is changing, why should we expect our own lives to remain untouched by this universal law? Yet this is exactly what many people do. They spend years trying to hold on to what is naturally slipping away. They become attached to their appearance and suffer when wrinkles appear. They become attached to physical strength and suffer when their bodies become slower. They become attached to being needed and suffer when their children become independent. They become attached to control and suffer when life refuses to obey their plans. According to Buddhist wisdom, attachment is often the hidden source of fear. The more tightly we cling to something, the more afraid we become of losing it. Imagine holding a handful of sand. If you hold it gently, it remains in your hand. But if you squeeze it tightly, it slips through your fingers even faster. Life works in much the same way. The harder we try to force permanence onto temporary things, the more suffering we create for ourselves. The Buddha's secret for a fearless old age begins with understanding and accepting impermanence. This does not mean becoming cold, detached, or indifferent. It means learning to appreciate things while they are here, without demanding that they remain forever. It means enjoying youth without expecting it to last. It means loving people without believing they will always be by our side. It means being grateful for health while understanding that the body will eventually change. A person who accepts impermanence begins to experience a different kind of freedom. Instead of living in constant fear of loss, they learn to live in appreciation of the present moment. They stop measuring their happiness by what they might lose tomorrow. They become more focused on how they can live wisely today. This shift in perspective transforms old age. Instead of seeing aging as a thief that steals everything valuable, they begin to see it as a teacher. Aging reveals truths that youth often hides. It reminds us that time is precious. It teaches us to focus on what truly matters. It strips away many of the distractions that once consumed our attention and forces us to ask deeper questions about the purpose of life. Many people reach old age carrying a lifetime of regrets. They regret the kindness they never showed. They regret the relationships they neglected. They regret the opportunities they allowed fear to destroy. They regret spending decades worrying about things that ultimately did not matter. These regrets become painful because they cannot be changed. Buddhist wisdom encourages us to learn this lesson before it is too late. The goal is not simply to grow older. The goal is to grow wiser. Every year should bring greater understanding, greater compassion, and greater peace. A person who uses life in this way does not fear old age because they know they have not wasted the gift of time. Another reason many people fear old age is because they associate their worth with what they can do rather than who they are. When they are productive, they feel valuable. When they are strong, they feel important. When others depend on them, they feel significant. But as life changes, these roles may begin to disappear. Retirement comes, responsibilities decrease, society pays less attention. For someone whose identity depends entirely on external achievements, this transition can feel devastating. But Buddhist wisdom teaches that our value does not come from our job, our status, or our usefulness to others. Our value comes from our humanity, our awareness, and our capacity for wisdom and compassion. These qualities do not disappear with age. In many cases, they grow stronger. The Buddha also taught that fear becomes smaller when we learn to observe it instead of running from it. Fear often grows because we refuse to face it directly. We distract ourselves, avoid difficult thoughts, and pretend uncomfortable realities do not exist. But what we refuse to face often gains power over us. When we calmly acknowledge our fears, they begin to lose their grip. A person who reflects honestly on aging, change, and mortality develops a deeper relationship with life. They stop taking ordinary moments for granted. They become more appreciative of simple pleasures. A quiet morning, a meaningful conversation, a moment of gratitude, or the beauty of nature becomes more valuable than endless pursuits of status and recognition. This is why some elderly people radiate peace, even though they possess very little. They have discovered something that many younger people have not yet learned. They understand that happiness does not come from controlling life. It comes from flowing with life. They no longer waste energy fighting realities they cannot change. Instead, they focus on cultivating the qualities that remain meaningful regardless of circumstances. The Buddha's secret for a fearless old age is not a magical formula. It is a profound shift in understanding. Fear decreases when attachment decreases. Peace increases when acceptance increases. Wisdom grows when we stop demanding permanence from an impermanent world. The person who understands this truth begins to age differently. Their wrinkles no longer feel like enemies. Their changing body no longer feels like a betrayal. The passing years no longer feel like a countdown to loss. Instead, old age becomes a sacred chapter of life filled with reflection, gratitude, and insight. Such a person does not fear the future because they have learned to live fully in the present. They do not fear change because they understand that change has always been part of life. They do not fear growing older because they know that true wealth was never found in youth, beauty, or strength. It was always found in the wisdom that grows through experience and the peace that comes from acceptance. And that is the secret the Buddha wanted us to understand. The path to a fearless old age is not found in holding on tighter. It is found in learning, little by little, how to let go. Lesson 3: The harsh reality of aging. Nobody wants to hear. There is a truth about aging that most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid. They distract themselves with work, entertainment, responsibilities, and endless plans for the future. They convince themselves that there will always be more time to become happy, more time to repair relationships, more time to follow their dreams, more time to focus on what truly matters. But aging has a way of revealing truths that can no longer be ignored. One day, a person looks into the mirror and notices that the face staring back is no longer the same. The years have quietly left their mark. The body that once felt powerful now becomes slower. Tasks that once required little effort begin to demand more energy. Recovery takes longer. Fatigue arrives sooner. The simple reality of growing older becomes impossible to deny. For many people, this realization is deeply uncomfortable because it challenges one of the greatest illusions of human life: the illusion that we have unlimited time. When people are young, they often behave as though life will continue forever. They postpone important conversations. They delay acts of kindness. They put off personal growth. They tell themselves they will focus on peace later, happiness later, wisdom later. But later has a way of arriving much faster than expected. This is one of the harsh realities of aging that nobody wants to hear. Time moves in only one direction. Every day that passes is a day that cannot be reclaimed. Every year that disappears is a year that will never return. The Buddha encouraged people to reflect on this truth, not to create fear, but to awaken appreciation. When we understand that time is limited, we begin to value it more deeply. Another reality that many people struggle to accept is that aging gradually removes many of the distractions that once kept them occupied. During youth and middle age, life is often filled with goals, responsibilities, ambitions, and constant activity. People are busy building careers, raising families, managing finances, and pursuing achievements. But as the years pass, many of these activities begin to fade. Retirement arrives. Children become independent. Social circles become smaller. The constant noise of earlier life starts to quiet down. At first, this silence can feel uncomfortable. Many people discover that they have spent decades focusing on the outside world while neglecting their inner world. When the distractions disappear, they are left alone with their thoughts. For some, this becomes a source of peace. For others, it becomes a source of suffering. This is why Buddhist wisdom places such importance on cultivating the mind throughout life. Eventually, every person must spend time alone with themselves. The question is whether they will find a peaceful companion or a troubled stranger waiting within. Another harsh reality of aging is that the world does not always treat older people the way they expect. Society often celebrates youth, beauty, speed, and productivity. Many people spend years receiving attention, admiration, and recognition. Then, as they grow older, they notice that they are no longer the center of attention. Their opinions may be ignored. Their presence may be taken for granted. Their achievements may be forgotten by newer generations who know little about the struggles and sacrifices that came before them. This can be painful for those who built their identity around the approval of others. Buddhist wisdom teaches that seeking validation from the world is like building a house on shifting sand. Public opinion changes constantly. Praise today can become criticism tomorrow. Attention comes and goes. The person who depends on these things for happiness eventually suffers when they disappear. The person who develops inner stability, however, remains peaceful, regardless of how others respond. Aging also reveals another difficult truth. Many relationships are not as permanent as they once seemed. Some friendships fade naturally with time. Some relationships drift apart because life moves people in different directions. Loved ones who once seemed inseparable may become distant due to circumstances, misunderstandings, or simply the passage of years. For some people, this realization creates sadness. They begin to understand that attachment to permanence often leads to disappointment, because nothing in life remains unchanged forever. The Buddha did not teach this truth to make people pessimistic. He taught it to help people love more wisely. When we understand that every relationship is temporary, we begin to appreciate people more deeply while they are present. We stop taking them for granted. We become more patient, more forgiving, and more grateful. One of the most painful realities of aging is witnessing loss. As the years pass, many people experience the death of parents, siblings, friends, spouses, and companions who once shared their journey. Empty chairs begin appearing at family gatherings. Familiar voices disappear. Memories become more numerous than future plans. This experience can feel overwhelming, especially for those who have never prepared themselves emotionally for the reality of impermanence. Yet Buddhist wisdom reminds us that loss is not a sign that life is unfair. Loss is woven into the very fabric of existence. Everything that begins must eventually end. Every meeting eventually becomes a parting. Every birth eventually leads to death. This truth may sound harsh, but accepting it allows us to live with greater compassion and awareness. The people who suffer most are often not those who experience loss, but those who refuse to accept that loss is a natural part of life. Another reality that aging exposes is the difference between external success and internal fulfillment. Many people spend decades chasing wealth, status, possessions, and recognition because they believe these things will bring lasting happiness. Some eventually achieve everything they once dreamed about. They acquire financial security. They earn respect. They reach impressive milestones. Yet many discover an uncomfortable truth. External success cannot automatically create inner peace. A person can have a large house and still feel lonely. A person can have wealth and still feel anxious. A person can be admired by thousands and still feel empty inside. Old age often exposes this reality because it forces people to examine their lives more honestly. The distractions become fewer. The achievements become memories. What remains is the question they can no longer avoid. Did I truly learn how to live? This question is far more important than how much money was earned or how much recognition was received. Buddhist wisdom teaches that a successful life is not measured by what a person accumulates, but by what they become. Did they become wiser? Did they become kinder? Did they develop compassion? Did they learn to let go? Did they cultivate peace? These are the qualities that remain meaningful when everything else begins to fade. Perhaps the harshest reality of aging is also the most important one. No matter who we are, how powerful we become, how wealthy we become, or how admired we become, every one of us is moving toward the same destination. No title can stop it. No possession can prevent it. No amount of success can escape it. Life is temporary. Most people spend years running from this truth because they believe it is depressing. But the Buddha saw something different. He understood that accepting life's temporary nature does not make life less valuable. It makes life infinitely more precious. When we realize that our time is limited, we stop wasting it on unnecessary conflicts. We stop carrying resentments that poison our hearts. We stop postponing kindness. We stop waiting for the perfect moment to appreciate what we already have. The awareness of impermanence transforms ordinary moments into extraordinary gifts. A simple conversation becomes valuable. A peaceful morning becomes meaningful. The presence of loved ones becomes precious. The opportunity to learn, grow, and love becomes something we no longer take for granted. This is the reality of aging that many people try to avoid but eventually discover. Aging removes illusions. Aging exposes what truly matters. Aging reveals the difference between what is temporary and what is lasting. And for those willing to face these truths with courage, aging becomes more than a process of growing older. It becomes a path toward deeper wisdom, greater gratitude, a peace that cannot be found in youth alone. Lesson 4. Why family cannot walk the last journey for you. Family is one of the most important parts of human life. From the moment we enter this world, we depend on others for care, protection, and guidance. Parents sacrifice their sleep to raise children. Husbands and wives support each other through challenges. Brothers and sisters share memories that last for decades. Grandparents become keepers of family stories and traditions. Throughout life, family often becomes the center around which many of our decisions revolve. Because family is so important, many people unknowingly begin to believe that family will always be enough. They assume that the love of family will protect them from every hardship, every fear, and every loneliness. They place all of their emotional security in the people closest to them. While there is nothing wrong with loving family deeply, Buddhist wisdom teaches that there is a truth hidden beneath this attachment that every person must eventually understand. No matter how much your family loves you, there are certain journeys they cannot take for you. This is not a criticism of family. It is simply a reality of human existence. Your family can walk beside you, but they cannot walk within you. They can offer comfort, but they cannot remove every pain. They can support your decisions, but they cannot make your choices. They can listen to your thoughts, but they cannot think them for you. And when the deepest moments of life arrive, every person must face them alone. Most people spend much of their lives avoiding this truth because it feels uncomfortable. We naturally want to believe that the people we love will always be there to carry us through every challenge. Yet life repeatedly shows us that there are limits to what even the most loving family can do. Consider the moments of emotional suffering that every person experiences. There are times when sadness enters the heart so deeply that words struggle to describe it. Family members may sit beside us. They may offer advice, encouragement, and understanding. Their presence may ease some of the burden. Yet no matter how much they care, they cannot fully enter our inner experience. The pain must still be felt by us. The healing must still happen within us. The lessons must still be learned by us. This is why Buddhism places such importance on developing inner strength. A person who depends entirely on others for emotional stability becomes vulnerable whenever circumstances change. If their peace exists only through the presence of others, what happens when those people are no longer available? As people grow older, this question becomes increasingly important. Children who once needed constant attention eventually build lives of their own. They develop careers, raise families, and face responsibilities that demand their time and energy. This is not a sign that they love their parents less. It is simply the natural flow of life. Yet many elderly people struggle because they expect life to remain exactly as it was decades earlier. They wait for constant visits. They wait for daily phone calls. They wait for the same level of attention they once received. When reality does not match their expectations, feelings of disappointment, loneliness, and resentment begin to grow. Buddhist wisdom teaches that suffering often appears when expectations collide with reality. The problem is not that family members become busy. The problem is the belief that they should never change. The Buddha encouraged people to understand that every individual is living their own journey. Just as your parents could not live your life for you, your children cannot dedicate their entire existence to living for you. Every person must eventually walk their own path. This understanding creates freedom. Instead of demanding that others fulfill every emotional need, we begin to take responsibility for our own peace. Instead of expecting constant attention, we learn to appreciate the moments we share. Instead of clinging to how things used to be, we learn to embrace how things are. Another reason this lesson is so important is because family relationships themselves are impermanent. Many people dislike hearing this truth because it challenges one of their deepest attachments. They want to believe that the people they love will always remain close. Yet life continually demonstrates otherwise. Families move to different cities. Relationships change. Misunderstandings occur. People grow in different directions. And eventually, every family experiences loss. The people who once filled our homes with laughter do not remain forever. The voices we hear today may one day become memories. The hands we hold today may one day be gone. This reality is painful, but ignoring it does not make it disappear. In fact, refusing to accept impermanence often increases suffering. When we accept that relationships are temporary, something beautiful happens. We stop taking people for granted. We become more grateful for their presence. We become more patient with their flaws. We become more willing to forgive because we understand that time together is limited. Acceptance deepens love. Attachment often creates fear. There is a profound difference between the two. Attachment says, "You must stay with me forever." Love says, "I am grateful for the time we share." Attachment tries to possess. Love learns to appreciate. Attachment fears loss. Love understands change. The Buddha taught that true compassion is not built upon possession. It is built upon understanding. As people age, they also begin facing another reality that few discuss openly. No family member can carry your karma. No child can transfer their good deeds into your heart. No spouse can meditate on your behalf. No sibling can develop wisdom for you. The qualities that matter most in the final stages of life are deeply personal. The peace you experience comes from the mind you cultivated. The wisdom you possess comes from the lessons you learned. The character you carry comes from the choices you made. These are things that cannot be borrowed from anyone else. Many elderly people discover this too late. They spent years investing only in external relationships while neglecting their inner development. They expected family to provide the peace they never learned to create within themselves. When circumstances changed, they felt abandoned, not because their family stopped loving them, but because they had never learned to stand peacefully on their own. Buddhist wisdom encourages us to avoid this mistake. Love your family deeply, care for them, support them, spend time with them, create beautiful memories with them. But do not make them the sole foundation of your happiness. Build an inner life that remains stable even when circumstances change. Develop a mind that can find peace in both company and solitude. Cultivate wisdom that remains available even when nobody else is around. The deepest journey every human being takes is not a journey across countries or through careers. It is the journey inward. It is the journey of understanding oneself. It is the journey of facing fear, attachment, desire, regret, and impermanence. And this journey cannot be completed by anyone else. Your family can encourage you. Your family can inspire you. Your family can walk beside you for many years. But they cannot walk inside your mind. They cannot experience your awareness. They cannot make peace with life on your behalf. That responsibility belongs to you alone. Perhaps the most powerful realization of all comes near the end of life. When a person looks back on their years with clarity, they often recognize that the greatest gift they could have given their family was not dependence. It was wisdom. It was emotional strength. It was inner peace. It was the example of someone who learned how to face life's challenges with grace. Such a person becomes a source of inspiration rather than burden. They teach future generations that love and independence can exist together. They show that family is precious, but inner peace is essential. And they understand one of Buddhism's deepest truths. Family can walk beside you for many miles, but the final journey into your own heart is a path that only you can travel. The sooner we accept this reality, the sooner we stop searching outside ourselves for what can only be found within. And that understanding becomes one of the greatest sources of freedom a person can discover in old age. Lesson 5. The hidden wealth that grows, more precious with age. When most people hear the word wealth, their minds immediately think about money. They think about bank accounts, property, investments, expensive possessions, and everything that society teaches us to pursue. From a young age, people are told that success means accumulating more money, more achievements, more recognition, more possessions. Entire lives are often spent chasing these goals because people believe that one day, after they have collected enough, they will finally feel secure, fulfilled, and at peace. Yet one of the most surprising lessons that old age teaches is that the things people spend decades chasing are often not the things they need most when they grow older. Many elderly people have discovered this truth through direct experience. Some spent their youth working tirelessly to build financial security. They sacrificed weekends, delayed vacations, ignored their health, and postponed moments of joy because they believed happiness was waiting somewhere in the future. They imagined that once they reached a certain level of success, peace would naturally follow. But for many, that day never arrived. The wealth increased, but so did anxiety. The possessions multiplied, but so did attachment. The achievements grew, but inner contentment remained out of reach. This is not because money is bad. Buddhist wisdom does not teach that wealth itself is the problem. Money can provide comfort, stability, and opportunities. It can help people support their families and improve their lives. The problem begins when people mistake material wealth for the highest form of wealth. The Buddha taught that there is another kind of wealth that is far more valuable, especially as a person grows older. This wealth cannot be stored in a bank account. It cannot be purchased in a marketplace. It cannot be inherited from parents or gifted by friends. It must be cultivated within. This is the hidden wealth that becomes more precious with every passing year. Unlike material possessions, which often lose value over time, inner wealth becomes increasingly valuable as life unfolds. In youth, people often overlook it because they are distracted by external pursuits. But old age has a way of revealing its true importance. One form of this hidden wealth is wisdom. Wisdom is not simply the accumulation of information. A person can read hundreds of books and still lack wisdom. Wisdom comes from understanding life deeply. It comes from observing experiences honestly and learning from them. It develops when people stop blaming others for everything that happens and begin reflecting on their own actions, thoughts, and choices. A wise person understands that happiness cannot be found by controlling every circumstance. They understand that life contains both pleasure and pain. They understand that every experience, whether joyful or difficult, contains lessons that can help them grow. As people age, wisdom becomes more valuable than physical strength. The strongest body eventually weakens. The fastest mind eventually slows. But wisdom often continues growing long after many other abilities begin to decline. This is why some elderly individuals possess a quiet presence that immediately commands respect. Their value does not come from physical power or social status. It comes from the depth of understanding they have developed through years of experience. Another form of hidden wealth is patience. In a world that constantly encourages speed, patience has become increasingly rare. People want immediate results. They want instant solutions. They want life to unfold according to their schedule. Yet life rarely cooperates with these demands. Relationships require patience. Healing requires patience. Personal growth requires patience. Even understanding oneself requires patience. Those who cultivate patience throughout life discover a remarkable gift. They stop fighting against every delay and disappointment. They become more resilient when challenges arise because they understand that difficult moments are temporary. As people grow older, patience becomes one of the greatest sources of peace. A patient person does not become consumed by frustration every time circumstances fail to meet expectations. They understand that some things unfold in their own time. They stop wasting precious energy resisting realities they cannot control. This inner calm becomes a treasure that no amount of money can purchase. Compassion is another form of hidden wealth that grows more valuable with age. Many people spend years judging others without fully understanding their struggles. They criticize mistakes they have never personally faced. They assume they know what others should do, without appreciating the complexity of another person's experience. But as life unfolds, most people encounter difficulties that humble them. They experience loss, they experience failure, they experience disappointment, they experience grief. These experiences often soften the heart and deepen compassion. A compassionate person recognizes that every individual is carrying burdens that may not be visible from the outside. They become slower to judge and quicker to understand. As people age, compassion transforms relationships. It allows them to connect with others on a deeper level. It reduces unnecessary conflict. It creates a sense of warmth that enriches both the giver and the receiver. Unlike material possessions, compassion increases the more it is shared. The more it is given, the richer a person becomes. Gratitude is another treasure that many people underestimate until later in life. Human beings have a natural tendency to focus on what is missing rather than what is present. They notice what they lack more easily than what they already possess. This habit often prevents them from appreciating the blessings that surround them. Old age frequently teaches a powerful lesson about gratitude. When certain abilities begin to fade, people suddenly recognize how valuable those abilities were. When loved ones are no longer present, they realize how precious those relationships truly were. When opportunities pass, they understand how fortunate they once were to have them. The wise person learns this lesson before loss forces it upon them. They cultivate gratitude while blessings are still present. They appreciate simple moments. They value ordinary days. They understand that many of life's greatest gifts are often overlooked because they appear so common. A grateful heart experiences abundance even in modest circumstances. An ungrateful heart experiences scarcity even in the midst of abundance. Inner peace may be the greatest hidden wealth of all. Many people assume that peace will arrive automatically once external problems disappear. They imagine that if they could simply eliminate stress, avoid conflict, and achieve enough success, peace would naturally follow. Yet life repeatedly demonstrates that external conditions alone cannot create lasting peace. There are wealthy people who cannot sleep at night because their minds are filled with worry. There are successful people who remain trapped by anxiety despite achieving everything they once desired. There are individuals surrounded by comfort who still feel deeply unhappy. At the same time, there are people with very little who radiate contentment and serenity. What creates this difference? The answer lies within. Peace is not merely the absence of problems. Peace is the ability to remain balanced even when problems arise. It is the ability to experience life's ups and downs without being completely controlled by them. The Buddha taught that true peace emerges when attachment begins to loosen its grip on the heart. The less a person depends upon external circumstances for happiness, the more stable their peace becomes. As people grow older, this lesson becomes increasingly important. Life inevitably changes. Health changes. Relationships change. Circumstances change. The person who relies entirely on external stability often suffers whenever these changes occur. The person who cultivates inner peace possesses a refuge that remains available regardless of circumstances. Another form of hidden wealth is self-understanding. Many people spend decades learning about the world while knowing very little about themselves. They understand how to earn money. They understand how to manage responsibilities. They understand how to navigate society. Yet they rarely pause long enough to understand their own minds. They remain strangers to their fears, strangers to their attachments, strangers to their deepest motivations. Buddhist wisdom encourages self-awareness because self-awareness creates freedom. When people understand themselves clearly, they become less controlled by unconscious habits. They recognize destructive patterns before those patterns create suffering. They become capable of making wiser choices because they understand the forces operating within them. This self-knowledge becomes increasingly valuable with age. It allows a person to reflect on life honestly, rather than defensively. It helps them learn from mistakes rather than repeat them. It transforms experience into wisdom. Perhaps the greatest feature of hidden wealth is that it cannot be taken away by external circumstances. Economic downturns cannot destroy it. Aging cannot erase it. Illness cannot steal it. The opinions of others cannot diminish it. This is why Buddhist wisdom places such emphasis on cultivating inner qualities. External wealth is always vulnerable. Inner wealth travels wherever you go. It remains available during both success and failure. It remains available during both health and sickness. It remains available during both companionship and solitude. As the years pass, many people eventually realize that the richest individuals are not necessarily those who accumulated the most possessions. The richest individuals are often those who cultivated the most wisdom, the most compassion, the most gratitude, the most patience, and the most peace. These treasures become more valuable with every passing year because they help a person navigate life's challenges with dignity and grace. When old age arrives, they provide comfort that money alone cannot provide. When difficulties appear, they provide strength that possessions cannot provide. When life becomes uncertain, they provide stability that external achievements cannot provide. This is the hidden wealth that grows more precious with age. The tragedy is that many people spend their entire lives searching for treasure in the outside world while ignoring the treasure that already exists within them. The opportunity before us is to begin cultivating that treasure today. Every act of kindness adds to it. Every moment of mindfulness strengthens it. Every lesson learned from suffering deepens it. Every effort to understand life honestly enriches it. And unlike material possessions, which must eventually be left behind, this hidden wealth becomes part of who we are. It shapes our experience. It influences our peace. It determines the quality of our final years. And in the end, it may prove to be the most valuable investment we ever make. Lesson 6. The one companion that never abandons you. From the day a person is born until the day they take their final breath, there is one companion that remains with them every second of every hour, every day of every year. This companion is present during moments of joy and moments of sorrow. It is there during success and failure, during youth and old age, during health and illness. It stays when friends arrive, and it stays when friends leave. It remains when family gathers around us, and it remains when we find ourselves sitting alone in silence. That companion is the mind. Most people spend much of their lives focusing on almost everything except the one thing that never leaves them. They invest enormous amounts of time improving their homes, building careers, maintaining appearances, and seeking approval from others. Yet they often neglect the condition of their own minds. They assume that happiness will come from arranging the outside world in the perfect way. They believe that if they can just earn enough money, gain enough recognition, or solve enough problems, peace will finally arrive. But Buddhist wisdom teaches a very different lesson. The quality of your life is deeply connected to the quality of your mind. Two people can experience the same event and respond completely differently. One person encounters a challenge and becomes overwhelmed by anger, fear, and frustration. Another person faces the very same challenge with patience, understanding, and resilience. The difference is not necessarily the situation itself. The difference is the condition of the mind experiencing it. This is why the Buddha placed such importance on mental cultivation. He understood that the mind has the power to create either suffering or peace. A mind filled with constant craving, resentment, jealousy, and fear can transform even favorable circumstances into a source of misery. A mind trained in wisdom, gratitude, and compassion can discover peace even in difficult conditions. As people grow older, this truth becomes increasingly obvious. When we are young, distractions are everywhere. Work keeps us busy. Goals keep us moving. Responsibilities fill our schedules. Social activities occupy our attention. The noise of life often prevents us from noticing what is happening inside our own minds. But as the years pass, many of these distractions begin to fade. The children grow up. The career eventually slows down or ends. Social circles become smaller. The house becomes quieter. The pace of life changes. And suddenly, a person finds themselves spending more time with the one companion that has been present all along, their own mind. For some people, this becomes a blessing. For others, it becomes a source of suffering. Those who spent years cultivating awareness, patience, gratitude, and wisdom often find comfort in solitude. They are able to sit quietly without feeling lonely. They can enjoy simple moments without needing constant stimulation. Their minds become places of refuge rather than prisons. Others discover that they have spent decades neglecting their inner world. They may find themselves haunted by regrets. They replay old arguments. They dwell on past mistakes. They worry endlessly about the future. They become trapped in cycles of fear, resentment, or dissatisfaction. Even when they are physically safe and comfortable, their minds continue generating suffering. This is one of the most important truths in Buddhist wisdom. A peaceful life cannot be built upon a restless mind. Many people believe that suffering comes entirely from external circumstances. They blame their unhappiness on difficult people, unfortunate events, financial struggles, or disappointing situations. While these factors can certainly create challenges, Buddhism teaches that our relationship with these experiences often determines the depth of our suffering. Imagine two people standing in the rain. One person spends the entire time complaining, resisting, and wishing reality were different. The other person accepts the situation and adapts accordingly. The rain falls on both individuals equally, yet their experience of the rain is completely different. Life often works the same way. The mind acts as a lens through which every experience is interpreted. If the lens is clouded by negativity, fear, and attachment, even positive experiences can become sources of dissatisfaction. If the lens is clear, balanced, and wise, many difficulties become easier to navigate. This is why training the mind is not a luxury. It is a necessity. The Buddha compared the untrained mind to a wild animal. Left alone, it runs wherever impulses and emotions lead it. One moment, it chases desire. The next moment, it runs toward anger. Then it becomes trapped in worry, jealousy, or fear. Without awareness, people often become servants of their own thoughts. They assume every thought is true. They obey every emotional impulse. They allow temporary feelings to control permanent decisions. As a result, they create unnecessary suffering for themselves and those around them. A trained mind operates differently. A trained mind observes thoughts without becoming controlled by them. A trained mind recognizes emotions without being overwhelmed by them. A trained mind understands that not every fear deserves attention and not every desire deserves pursuit. This ability becomes especially valuable in old age. As the body changes, many people experience new challenges. Health concerns appear. Physical limitations increase. certain activities become more difficult. The future may feel uncertain. Without mental stability, these realities can generate tremendous anxiety. But a person with a trained mind responds differently. They acknowledge challenges without allowing those challenges to consume them. They focus on what can be controlled instead of obsessing over what cannot. They accept change without surrendering to despair. This inner strength does not appear overnight. It is developed gradually through years of awareness and practice. Every moment of mindfulness strengthens it. Every act of patience deepens it. Every effort to understand life honestly contributes to it. Another reason the mind becomes such an important companion in old age is because external companionship naturally changes over time. Many elderly people discover that loneliness is not simply the absence of other people. A person can be surrounded by family and still feel lonely. A person can attend social gatherings and still feel isolated. True loneliness often arises when a person feels disconnected from themselves, when they have never learned to be comfortable in their own presence, when silence feels threatening instead of peaceful, when solitude exposes inner conflicts they have spent years avoiding. Buddhist wisdom offers a powerful alternative. Instead of fearing solitude, it teaches people to use solitude as an opportunity for growth. Instead of escaping their thoughts, it encourages them to understand their thoughts. Instead of running from themselves, it invites them to become friends with themselves. This transformation changes everything. A person who is at peace with their own mind never feels completely abandoned. Even during periods of physical isolation, they retain access to an inner source of stability and contentment. Their happiness is no longer entirely dependent on external conditions. Their peace is no longer controlled by the behavior of others. Their well-being becomes rooted in something much deeper. One of the greatest tragedies in life is reaching old age with a well-furnished house, but an untrained mind. A person may possess financial security, comfortable surroundings, and material success, yet still feel trapped by anxiety, bitterness, and regret. Meanwhile, another person with far fewer possessions may experience genuine peace because they have spent years cultivating the qualities that truly matter. This is why Buddhist teachings repeatedly emphasize the importance of mental cultivation. The mind accompanies us everywhere. It travels with us through every stage of life. It influences every experience we have. It shapes how we perceive reality. It determines whether we meet life's challenges with wisdom or confusion. And unlike possessions, titles, and achievements, it never leaves our side. As old age approaches, this truth becomes impossible to ignore. The body may weaken, circumstances may change, relationships may evolve. Many things that once seemed permanent may eventually disappear. Yet the mind remains present until the very end. The question is not whether it will remain. The question is what kind of companion it will be. Will it be filled with regret or understanding? Will it be dominated by fear or guided by wisdom? Will it be restless and dissatisfied or calm and content? The answer depends largely on how we live today. Every day offers an opportunity to strengthen the mind. Every challenge offers an opportunity to cultivate patience. Every disappointment offers an opportunity to develop understanding. Every moment offers an opportunity to become more aware. The person who embraces this path gradually transforms their mind into a trusted friend. And when old age finally arrives, they discover something remarkable. The one companion that never abandons them has become their greatest source of peace, strength, and freedom. While others search desperately for security in a changing world, they carry their security within. While others fear solitude, they find comfort in it. While others struggle against life's uncertainties, they face them with calm understanding. This is the power of a trained mind. This is the companion that remains when many other things have faded. And this is why the Buddha taught that caring for the mind may be one of the most important responsibilities a person will ever have. Lesson 7. What truly belongs to you when life comes to an end? There is a question that almost nobody likes to think about, yet it is one of the most important questions a human being can ever ask. When life comes to an end, what truly belongs to you? At first, the answer may seem obvious. Many people immediately think about their house, their savings, their possessions, their achievements, or the people they love. After all, these are the things they spent most of their lives pursuing, protecting, and worrying about. But if we look more deeply, a different truth begins to emerge. Imagine a person reaching the final chapter of life. The years have passed, the body has grown older. The energy that once seemed endless has become limited. The future no longer stretches endlessly ahead. Instead, there is a growing awareness that time is precious. At that moment, many things that once appeared important begin to lose their power. The expensive possessions that required so much effort to acquire remain behind. The titles and achievements that once felt so significant become little more than memories. The praise and criticism of other people no longer seem as important as they once did. The endless worries that consumed so much attention suddenly appear small and insignificant. Life has a remarkable way of revealing what matters most when there is no longer time to pretend. This is why Buddhist wisdom encourages people to reflect on the end of life long before it arrives. The purpose is not to create fear. The purpose is to create clarity. When people avoid thinking about mortality, they often live unconsciously. They postpone meaningful actions. They delay personal growth. They spend years chasing distractions while neglecting the things that truly matter. But when they remember that life is temporary, their priorities begin to change. They become more intentional. They become more grateful. They become more aware of how they spend their time. The Buddha taught that nearly everything people call mine is temporary. The body is temporary. Wealth is temporary. Relationships are temporary. Success is temporary. Failure is temporary. Pleasure is temporary. Pain is temporary. Everything changes. Everything moves. Everything eventually passes away. This truth can feel uncomfortable because human beings naturally seek permanence. We want things to stay the same. We want the people we love to remain with us forever. We want our health to remain strong. We want our circumstances to remain favorable. Yet life continually teaches us that permanence is an illusion. The more tightly we cling to temporary things, the more suffering we create when those things inevitably change. This does not mean we should stop loving people. It does not mean we should stop appreciating life. It means we should learn to hold everything with wisdom, to appreciate without possessing, to love without clinging, to enjoy without demanding permanence. As people grow older, many begin to understand this lesson through experience. They watch entire chapters of life disappear. The childhood home that once seemed permanent may no longer exist. The neighborhood that once felt familiar changes beyond recognition. Friends who once shared daily conversations become memories. Family members who played central roles in life gradually leave the world. Even the body itself changes in ways that cannot be avoided. These experiences can be painful, yet they also reveal something profound. If everything external changes, then what remains? What truly belongs to us? According to Buddhist wisdom, there are three things that continue to matter until the very end. The first is the karma created through our actions. Every choice leaves a mark. Every act of kindness leaves a mark. Every act of generosity leaves a mark. Every moment of honesty leaves a mark. Likewise, every act of cruelty, selfishness, and dishonesty also leaves a mark. People often imagine that their lives are defined by major events, but in reality, character is built through countless small actions repeated over time. The way we treat strangers, the way we respond to disappointment, the way we handle success, the way we speak to those who cannot offer us anything in return. These moments shape who we become. When life comes to an end, possessions do not accompany us, but the consequences of our actions remain deeply connected to our experience. This is why the Buddha placed such emphasis on living with awareness and compassion. Every day provides an opportunity to create the kind of life we wish to look back upon with peace. The second thing that truly belongs to us is the condition of our mind. Throughout life, people spend enormous effort managing external circumstances. They organize schedules, they maintain property, they solve practical problems. Yet many never learn how to manage their own minds. As a result, they become controlled by fear, anger, jealousy, anxiety, and endless desire. Years pass, decades pass, and the mind becomes a place of constant conflict. Then old age arrives, the distractions become fewer. The opportunities to escape into busyness become smaller, and a person is left face to face with the mind they spent a lifetime creating. This is why mental cultivation is so important. A peaceful mind becomes one of the greatest blessings a person can possess. It provides comfort during uncertainty. It provides stability during change. It provides strength during hardship. Unlike external circumstances, which constantly shift, the qualities developed within the mind travel with us everywhere. A person with a trained mind can face challenges with dignity. A person with an untrained mind may struggle even in favorable conditions. As life approaches its final chapter, the state of the mind often becomes far more important than the state of one's possessions. The third thing that truly belongs to us is wisdom. Wisdom is one of the few treasures that increases when shared. It grows through reflection. It deepens through experience. It matures through understanding. Wisdom teaches us what is worth pursuing and what is not. It teaches us which battles deserve our energy and which should be released. It teaches us how to love without attachment, how to work without obsession, how to live without fear. Many people spend years accumulating information, but wisdom is different. Wisdom is the ability to see reality clearly. It is the ability to recognize impermanence without becoming discouraged. It is the ability to face suffering without becoming bitter. It is the ability to appreciate life while understanding that life cannot be controlled. A wise person may still experience loss. A wise person may still experience pain, but wisdom changes their relationship with those experiences. Instead of becoming trapped by them, they learn from them. Instead of being destroyed by challenges, they grow through them. This wisdom becomes an invaluable companion in old age. When many external abilities begin to decline, wisdom often continues to deepen. It provides guidance when uncertainty appears. It provides perspective when difficulties arise. It provides peace when circumstances change. As the Buddha taught, the person who cultivates wisdom possesses a treasure that cannot be stolen. One of the greatest tragedies in life is realizing these truths too late. Many people reach old age carrying deep regrets. They regret spending so much time worrying about things that ultimately did not matter. They regret holding on to anger for years. They regret postponing happiness. They regret sacrificing peace in exchange for endless striving. They regret neglecting relationships that truly mattered. They regret ignoring their inner growth while focusing exclusively on external success. These regrets are painful because they reveal opportunities that can never be recovered. Yet Buddhist wisdom offers a powerful message. The present moment is always available. As long as a person is alive, they can begin making different choices. They can begin cultivating kindness. They can begin training the mind. They can begin seeking wisdom. They can begin focusing on what truly matters. No matter how many years have passed, the opportunity for transformation remains. This is why reflecting on the end of life is not a depressing practice. It is a liberating practice. It reminds us that our time is valuable. It reminds us not to waste life chasing illusions. It reminds us to invest in qualities that endure. Imagine reaching the final chapter of life without overwhelming regret. Imagine looking back and knowing that you lived according to your values. Imagine knowing that you treated people with kindness. Imagine knowing that you learned from your mistakes. Imagine knowing that you cultivated wisdom instead of merely accumulating possessions. Imagine knowing that you developed a peaceful mind capable of facing uncertainty with courage. This is the kind of wealth that truly matters. This is the kind of success that remains meaningful when everything else fades. At the end of life, the world will not ask how much money you earned. It will not ask how many possessions you owned. It will not ask how much status you accumulated. The deeper question will be much simpler. Who did you become? Did you become wiser? Did you become kinder? Did you become more compassionate? Did you learn to let go? Did you learn to appreciate the gift of being alive? Did you learn to find peace within yourself? These questions reveal what truly belongs to you. Everything else must eventually be left behind. The house remains. The possessions remain. The titles remain. The bank accounts remain. The world continues moving forward. But the qualities you cultivated within yourself become the most valuable part of your journey. This is the great truth that Buddhism encourages us to remember. Life is temporary. Everything changes. Everything passes. Yet within this changing world, there are treasures worth developing. Your actions, your mind, your wisdom. These are the things that remain meaningful until the very end. These are the things that no one can take away. These are the things that truly belong to you when life comes to an end. And the person who understands this truth before it is too late possesses a wealth greater than anything the world can offer. As we come to the end of this journey, take a moment to reflect on everything we have discussed today. One day, every person will face a moment when they can no longer rely on the things they once believed would last forever. Wealth will lose its importance. Possessions will remain behind. Titles and achievements will become distant memories. Even the people we love most cannot walk every step of the final journey with us. This is not a message of fear. It is a message of freedom. Because once you understand what truly belongs to you, you stop wasting your life chasing what was never meant to stay. The actions you take today become your legacy. The mind you cultivate today becomes your refuge. The wisdom you develop today becomes your greatest treasure. These are the things that remain when everything else begins to fade. Most people discover this truth only after time has already slipped through their fingers. They spend years pursuing temporary things while neglecting the treasures that could have brought them lasting peace. Do not be one of them. Start today. Be kinder. Be more mindful. Be more grateful. Spend less time worrying about what you might lose and more time developing what can never be taken away. Because in the end, the richest person is not the one who owns the most. The richest person is the one who has cultivated a peaceful mind, a compassionate heart, and a deep understanding of life. Thank you for spending this time with us. And remember, when everything else is gone, your actions, your mind, and your wisdom will still remain. May you nurture them well. May you grow old with peace. And may you never discover this truth too late.